There are three things that aren't as controversial as people seem to think they are in dog training. So there's a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to dog training that I can completely understand why people find them controversial subjects, and I completely understand why they are controversial. So things like e-collars, prong collars, pieces of equipment like that aren't massively commonplace. I completely understand why people have the strong feelings about them that they do. But what seems to be happening more and more is controversy has been put on things that just really aren't controversial at all. And on lots of sides of different discussions, there's a feeling that these things are and should be considered controversial. And it's really just not very helpful for dog training. It's not very helpful for dog owners. And it's actually just not really the true picture in terms of these subjects when it comes to dog training and how controversial or not they really are. So definitely the weirdest one on this that I've seen is that telling people that their dog might need more exercise seems to have been put in a category with like alpha theory and dominance and alpha roles and things like that, which it's weird. It's like we've just kind of said everything that Cesar Millan ever said to anybody is now a controversial thing. And it's honestly just like so bizarre, because surely we know at this point that dogs need exercise, right? And there's totally so many reasons that somebody down. And there's obviously just so many reasons that exercise could be like a factor in like training or behavior or anything else. So why this has suddenly become something, and I've seen it in like training courses and stuff, that this might be a controversial issue that might come up in your conversations, that people might suggest that they think their dog needs more exercise. And like, well, this just stuff is just weird, and we're just like fundamentally attacking weird stuff at this point. So yeah, number one, and definitely the weirdest one on the list, is telling people that their dog needs exercise. Definitely not controversial, totally normal thing to be having a conversation about when it comes to training your dog. So the next one on my list is slip leads. Now I sort of get why this one a little bit more, definitely more than the exercise one. I can sort of see why this one might be a little bit more controversial, but it's not. And I'm going to tell you for why. And I think this one is actually pretty problematic, that this for some reason is considered a controversial topic, because this one is one that's particularly unhelpful for dog training. It's particularly unhelpful for dog shelters, because the like slip leads are just a really widely used piece of equipment. And whilst there's controversial ways that you might use a slip lead in and of itself has masses of uses and massive of benefits. It's a piece of equipment that dog shelters use up and down the country to safely get dogs in and out of kennels, safely walk them backwards and forwards from exercise areas without having to mess with collars and things like that. It's a piece of equipment that is massively helpful for dogs that might slip their collars, and that you need to keep really close control on for whatever reason, because they have a tendency to be prey driven, chase cats, chase cars. Having a piece of equipment that they can't slip, can't escape from, really important, and a really important part of a kind of a safety feature for dog trainers, particularly if you're working with aggressive and reactive dogs, to have just that heightened level of control. So we've got this weird stuff going on with pictures of like Victoria Stilwell, who's a big culprit for this kind of just making stuff controversial that really isn't, where she's gone to work in a shelter, I think in America. She's got a pit bull or some sort of bully breed out the front for a photo shoot, and she's got a slip lead around its chest, which is just nuts. And it's just a real symbol for me of this like idea that this piece of equipment has become so controversial that it's damaging to her image to be seen using it. And to the point that she's going to use it in a batshit way, put this out in public, and suggest that this is a better way of using it. So it's just this whole thing, like these pieces of equipment are used by all kinds of trainers, like ones that will call themselves force free, and positive trainers still using this piece of equipment because it is the safest thing to do in a given situation. Making this piece of equipment controversial is just damaging for everybody involved. So the next one on my list is the idea that it's evil to teach your dog to walk nicely on a loose lead. So there's this weird video of Cesar Millan, and he's just talking about a lot of the usual stuff Cesar Millan says, right? And don't get me wrong, Cesar Millan did some wild shit. He's a TV personality that probably shouldn't have ever been on TV. And some of the stuff he used to talk about was of its time, but it's pretty outdated now in terms of dog training, right? Give, down, plate. But again, to pick on everything he's ever said and decide that that is now controversial is bonkers. Dogs not walking and pulling on the lead, it's like the number one reason dogs get rehomed to the Dogs Trust. Give, down, oi, down. So, plate. So, loosely walking, heel walking, whatever you want to call it, teaching your dog this is an essential life skill. It's going to give you a happy life, it's going to give them a happy life. So the idea that this is controversial, or that you're training some kind of robot dog if you want your dog to walk to heel, it's just nonsense. We need to kill that idea real quick, because it's just really, yeah, another one of these things is just really unhelpful. Give, down. Okay, this last one is the big one, right? And it's telling your dog no. So for some reason, this is a controversial topic, which is bonkers. We need to stop agreeing that this is in some way controversial, because it's not. The reason it's not controversial is that there is not any dog owner, I would argue, in the world that has never told their dog no. More so, there is, I would say, almost zero professional dog trainers of any kind that are competent and effective that don't tell their dogs no, or don't tell their clients that it's okay to tell the dogs no. Even the likes of Victoria Stilwell has a blog on her website talking about how she uses verbal interruptions and accepting that they are in some way aversive, because aversiveness is on a spectrum, right? Aversive doesn't automatically mean electric shocks and getting stabbed in the neck. It just means something that you're going to try and avoid. So it's fundamental to dog training. It doesn't have to be harsh, it doesn't have to be heavy-handed, it doesn't have to be anything remotely controversial, okay? Telling your dog what they're not allowed to do, there are hundreds of kind ways and effective ways to do this, and whatever kind of dog trainer you are. And the idea that this is in some way a controversial subject just needs to die real hard. People who are pro-punishment need to stop suggesting that it's controversial. Weird dog trainers that say you should never tell your dog no need to stop that as well. It's not a thing, it's just internet bollocks, and just really unhelpful. So yeah, go forth. When your dog's being a knob, feel free to tell them no. You don't have to do anything particularly cruel when you're doing that for it to be effective. There you go, there's a bunch of stuff there that for some reason we're perpetuating that are in some way controversial, and they're not. There's plenty of other stuff we can be arguing about. These 4 things, nah, I'm calling it. They're off limits. It's not helpful for anybody. It's not true, objectively, and according to the majority of dog trainers in all kind of competencies and methodologies. So I hope that makes anyone feel better if they're walking their dog on a slip lead to keep it safe, if they're practicing heel walking, if they're giving their dog exercise because it needs it, and if they're telling their dog not to do something because it's dangerous. All of those things are fine.